the uninvited guest. The Galactic Council chamber hung in the void between stars, a crystalline structure that had witnessed 3 million years of civilized deliberation. Today it would witness something unprecedented. Ambassador Velrith of the Castharian Empire adjusted his 7 optical sensors, focusing on the holographic agenda floating before the assembled delegates. 247 species, representing every corner of known space, waited in their designated atmospheric pods. The agenda was routine. Trade disputes, resource allocation, the usual bureaucratic necessities that kept galactic civilization functioning. Next item, Velrith's translated voice echoed through the chamber. Petition from Sector 447 Alpha regarding mineral rights on. The chamber doors exploded inward. Not metaphorically. The 6-ton Duralloy panels, designed to withstand stellar radiation and kinetic weapons, simply ceased to exist in a flash of white fire. Alarms screamed. Atmospheric containment fields flickered as emergency protocols engaged. Through the smoke strode a human woman. She wore no environmental suit, just a tailored black jacket over what appeared to be primitive woven fabric. Her dark hair was pulled back severely, and her brown eyes swept the chamber with the confidence of someone who owned it. Behind her, 2 more humans flanked the entrance, their postures relaxed but ready. "My name is Kira Vance," the woman announced, her voice cutting through the chaos without amplification. "I represent the Terran Coalition. We're joining the Galactic Council." Velrith's primary brain struggled to process the violation of protocol while his secondary brain catalogued the security failures. You cannot simply. Can't I? Kira pulled a small device from her pocket and tossed it onto the central platform. It projected a hologram that made Velrith's digestive system clench. Star charts, military deployment grids, and horrifyingly real-time tracking data on every Council warship currently in this sector. "We've been watching you for 37 years, Kira continued, walking down the center aisle as delegates recoiled into their pods. "Ever since the day your survey drones stumbled into our solar system and decided we weren't worth noticing. Not advanced enough, you said. Not unified enough. Not ready for the galactic community." High Arbiter Zeth Morian, a being of pure crystallized thought who had governed the Council for 6 centuries, finally manifested his avatar. "You were observed according to the integration protocols. Species must develop naturally without contamination." "Without competition, you mean?" Kira interrupted. The casual disrespect sent ripples of shock through the assembly. No one interrupted a High Arbiter. "You found Earth 40 years before we developed faster-than-light travel. If you'd made contact then, shared technology, we might have become just another client species. Grateful. Subordinate. But you waited. And we didn't." She gestured and the hologram shifted. New images appeared. Sleek vessels that didn't match any known design, weapon systems that made Velrith's military analysts blanch, and worst of all, human colonies on 17 worlds the Council had marked as uninhabited. "We've been out here for 20 years, Kira said softly. "Building, learning, trading with the species you ignore because they're not civilized enough for your precious Council. And we've learned something interesting. Your rules only apply to species that accept them. This is an act of war." Councillor Thex of the Viridian Collective hissed, his 4 mouths working in agitation. "You violate our sovereignty, our territory." "Your territory?" Kira's laugh was sharp. "Show me the documents. Show me where the Council filed claim to the Andrus Expanse. The Kelvin Reach. The Outer Spiral. You don't colonize those regions because they're too dangerous or economically unfeasible. Well, humans don't scare easy, and we find profit in places you've written off." She pulled out a formal-looking document, letting it unfurl in the holographic display. "This is our application for Council membership. It meets every requirement in your charter. We have FTL capability. We control 43 star systems. We maintain diplomatic relations with 15 recognized species. And we have the military capacity to defend our territory." Preposterous. Velrith's voice reached a pitch that strained his translator. "The integration process takes decades. Cultural assessment, technological evaluation, philosophical compatibility. All of which is designed to ensure you only admit species that will play by your rules." Kira's eyes hardened. "But here's the thing about humans, counselors. We don't wait for invitations to tables we've earned a seat at." The human woman behind her, Commander Jade Sorensen, if Velrith's intelligence was correct, stepped forward and placed a case on the floor. It opened to reveal something that made every military delegate in the chamber reach for their weapons. A singularity containment device, currently inactive, but the implications were clear. "You have 48 hours, Kira said, her voice carrying absolute certainty. "Either you accept our application and grant us full voting membership, or we activate our contingency plan. And trust me, counselors, you really don't want to find out what desperate humans are capable of when we're cornered." She turned to leave, then paused. "Oh, and one more thing. We're not the only species you've been ignoring. The Remnari, the Thale Collectives, the Broken Moon Alliance, they're all watching this conversation very carefully. How you handle us will determine how you handle the next species that decides they're done waiting for permission." The doors, or what remained of them, slid shut behind the humans. For 17 seconds, absolute silence reigned in the chamber. Then everyone started talking at once. The ultimatum. 40 hours after Kira Vance's dramatic entrance, the council convened an emergency session. Velrith had spent the intervening time reviewing every scrap of intelligence on humanity, and the picture that emerged terrified him. The humans had been quiet. Deliberately so. While the council ignored them as a pre-FTL species, humanity had reverse-engineered FTL technology from debris in their own solar system. Wreckage from a 1,000-year-old battle the council had never bothered to clean up. Within 15 years they'd matched council technology. Within 20 they'd exceeded it in specific areas. Worse, they'd done so while remaining completely hidden. Every human vessel had stealth capabilities that shouldn't be possible without exotic matter the council strictly controlled. Except humans had found a workaround using quantum entanglement and some insane process involving black hole radiation. "They're bluffing," insisted General Karath, the Vrexian military commander whose 6-meter frame bristled with ceremonial weapons. 300 ships at most. We have thousands. 300 ships we know about, corrected analyst Mira Ken, one of the few humans who'd been openly working in council space. She'd requested permission to address the session, and Velrith had granted it, hoping for insight. "I've been trying to warn you for years. Humanity doesn't build fleets for show. Every vessel we construct has a purpose, and that purpose is usually aggressive. You would side with your species against the council?" High Arbiter Zethmorian's avatar flickered with what might have been disappointment. Mira met his gaze without flinching. "I side with reality, Arbiter. And the reality is that humans spent 4,000 years fighting each other before we reached space. We know war in ways your peaceful species have forgotten. We're really good at it." The holographic display activated, showing the singularity device Kira had left behind. A team of council scientists had been analyzing it for 2 days. Lead scientist Oryx materialized beside the display, his gaseous form swirling anxiously. "The device is ingenious and horrifying. If activated, it would create a controlled quantum cascade that would destabilize the dimensional anchors keeping this chamber in real space." "Meaning?" Velrith prompted. "Meaning this entire structure, and everyone in it, would be scattered across 17 dimensions simultaneously. Death would be instantaneous, but our consciousness would experience it for subjective millennia." The chamber erupted in outrage. Threats flew. Several delegates demanded immediate military action. "They left a bomb at the heart of galactic government." Counselor Thex shrieked. "This cannot stand." "Actually," Oryx interrupted quietly, "they left 47 bombs." The silence that fell was absolute. "We found the others 3 hours ago," the scientist continued. "Placed over the past 20 years during legitimate trade visits by human merchants. Every major council facility, every trade hub, every military shipyard. All linked, all awaiting a single activation command." "Impossible," Karath breathed. "Our security is impenetrable." "To species who respect your security," Mira said dryly. "Humans have a saying, locks only keep out honest people. We've been studying your systems for decades. We know every protocol, every loophole, every assumption you make about how civilized species behave. And then we do the opposite." Velritha's mind raced. "If we refuse their application and attempt to arrest them, they destroy everything we've built," Zethmorian finished. 3 million years of civilization, erased in an instant. Unthinkable. "If we accept them," Karath countered, "we legitimize terrorism. Every species with a grievance will follow their example." "Perhaps they should," said a new voice. Every sensor in the chamber focused on Speaker VUNN of the Remnari Assembly. The Remnari were one of the species Kira had mentioned, advanced enough for membership but perpetually delayed by council bureaucracy. "For 800 years we have applied for membership," VUNN continued, his translated voice carrying centuries of frustration. 800 years of further study needed, and cultural incompatibilities and perhaps in another century. Meanwhile, species who happen to share your philosophical outlook are accepted within decades. The humans are crude, yes. Violent, certainly. But they speak a truth we've been too polite to voice. Your council is not a meritocracy. It's a club, and the admission fee is conformity. This is not the time, Velrith began. It's exactly the time, Vuinen interrupted. Because in 8 hours the humans' deadline expires. And I, for one, am curious to see if they're bluffing. You'd risk everything on curiosity? Zethmorian's avatar pulsed with anger. I'd risk everything to know if change is possible, Vuinen replied calmly. The council has been stagnant for millennia. Perhaps it needs a species too stubborn to take no for an answer. Kira Vance's voice suddenly filled the chamber, broadcasting on all frequencies. Counselors, I hope you're enjoying your deliberations. I wanted to give you an update. 6 hours remain on our deadline. I've been asked to clarify our position, so let me be absolutely clear. Her holographic image appeared, standing on the bridge of what looked like a human warship. Behind her, Velrith could see crew members working with frightening efficiency. We are not bluffing about the devices. We are not bluffing about our military capacity. But I want you to understand something. We don't want to destroy the council. We want to fix it. Fix it? Velrith found himself speaking. You presume to lecture civilizations millions of years older than yours? Age isn't wisdom, Kira replied. It's just age. Your council has achieved stability, which is admirable. But stability becomes stagnation when it excludes anyone who doesn't fit your mold. The galaxy is full of species you've dismissed or delayed or ignored. Species with ideas, innovations, perspectives that could benefit everyone. But you'd rather maintain your comfortable monopoly. And your solution is to force your way in at gunpoint? Karath challenged. Kira smiled. Our solution is to prove that your gates can be forced. Once we're in, others will follow. And eventually, the council will have to choose, evolve into something truly representative, or collapse under the weight of its own irrelevance. So this is about more than just humanity, Zethmorian said slowly. It's about the fact that the galaxy is bigger and stranger and more diverse than your comfortable protocols allow for, Kira confirmed. Humans are just the catalyst. We're the species crazy enough to actually do what others have only dreamed of. The transmission ended. Velrith looked around the chamber at 247 species, all facing an impossible choice. Accept the humans and open the floodgates to unpredictable change, or refuse them and risk annihilation. We need to vote, High Arbiter Zethmorian said finally. Counselors, prepare your positions. We reconvene in 4 hours for final deliberation. As the chamber began to empty, Velrith caught Miraken's eye. Will they really do it? He asked quietly. Destroy everything? The human woman considered the question carefully. Humans have a concept called mutually assured destruction. We lived under its shadow for a century. The idea is simple. If everyone loses, maybe everyone negotiates instead. She paused. But if you force us to choose between submission and annihilation, counselors? We've chosen annihilation before. We're the species that split the atom and pointed it at ourselves. Never assume we're bluffing about self-destruction. Velrith watched her leave and felt something he hadn't experienced in centuries. Genuine fear of the unknown. The galaxy was changing whether the council was ready or not. The vote. 2 hours before the deadline, Velrith stood in his private chambers, reviewing the intelligence reports that wouldn't stop coming. Every hour revealed new layers of humanity's preparation. They'd established trade relationships with 73 species the council considered minor or developing. They'd built hidden shipyards in nebulae the council had marked as too unstable for habitation. They'd even managed to reverse engineer council shield technology and improve it by 37% efficiency. But the detail that disturbed Velrith most was a cultural report compiled by xenoanthropologist Lisa Tormund, a Castharian who'd spent 20 years living on Earth. Humans, she'd written, possess a psychological trait they call stubbornness. It goes beyond normal persistence. When challenged or cornered, many humans will choose mutual destruction over submission, viewing the former as somehow more honorable. This is not negotiating posture. This is cultural programming 40,000 years deep. If the council rejects them, they will activate the devices. And they will consider it a victory even as they die. A chime indicated a visitor. Velrith's security system identified Counselor Thex. Enter, Velrith said, and the Viridian slithered into the room. You're voting to accept them, Thex stated. It wasn't a question. I'm considering it, Velrith admitted. Destruction serves no one. Neither does capitulation. Thex's four mouths twisted in disgust. If we accept them under duress, we prove that force trumps process. Every species with weapons will demand membership. Perhaps they should, Velrith said quietly, echoing Speaker Vuanen's words. Tell me, Thex, when was the last time a truly original idea emerged from council proceedings? We don't need original ideas. We need order. Stability. The predictability that allows thousands of species to coexist peacefully. Or the stagnation that lets us ignore half the galaxy while congratulating ourselves on our enlightenment, Velrith countered. I've spent the past 40 hours reviewing humanity's applications for first contact. Do you know how many times they requested dialogue? 17. 17 formal requests for communication, all filed through proper channels, all ignored because we decided they weren't ready. They weren't. They were still engaging in planetary warfare. So did we, Velrith said softly. 4 million years ago, yes, but we were just as violent once. We simply had the luxury of evolving slowly without observation. Humanity developed under our microscope, and we judged them for not matching our expectations. Perhaps that judgment was premature. Thex coiled tighter, a sign of agitation. You've been compromised. That human advisor, Mira Ken, she's influenced you. She's provided perspective, Velrith interrupted. Something we desperately need. When was the last time you questioned council policy, Thex? Really questioned it, not just debated implementation details? The Viridian had no answer. The chime sounded again. This time, it was High Arbiter Zethmorian himself, manifesting without waiting for permission. Gentlemen, the crystalline avatar pulsed, I've made a decision. I'm recommending we accept humanity's application. Velrith felt relief flood through him, while Thex made a sound like escaping gas. You can't be serious, the Viridian protested. The precedent. The precedent is already set, Zethmorian interrupted. Not by humanity but by us. We created a system that excludes worthy species based on arbitrary cultural metrics. We built walls and called them standards. The humans didn't break our system. They revealed it was already broken. The Arbiter's avatar shifted, projecting a historical database. I've been reviewing our integration protocols. In the past million years, we've accepted 43 new species. Do you know how many applied? 719. We rejected or indefinitely delayed nearly 94% of applicants. And our reasons? Philosophical incompatibility. Insufficient cultural development. Potential destabilizing influence. Those are legitimate concerns, Thex insisted. Are they? Or are they excuses to maintain our comfortable hegemony? Zethmorian's avatar pulsed with an emotion Velrith had never seen from the ancient being, doubt. I've governed this council for 6 centuries. I've prided myself on maintaining stability. But stability is not the same as justice. And it's certainly not the same as wisdom. So we surrender, Thex said bitterly. We let terrorists dictate terms. We acknowledge reality, Zethmorian corrected. Humanity has the strength to destroy us and the will to do so if we refuse them. But more importantly, they have a valid critique of our system. That's what frightens me most, not their weapons but the fact that they're right. Velrith accessed the voting interface. How many others have you convinced? Enough, the Arbiter replied. Speaker Vuanen and the Remnari bloc will vote yes. So will the Thale collectives and most of the Outer Rim species. They see this as their opportunity to finally gain representation. It'll fundamentally change the council, Velrith said. Yes, Zethmorian agreed. Perhaps that's overdue. The chamber reconvened 1 hour before the deadline. Every delegate had returned, and Velrith could feel the tension crackling through the various atmospheric fields. This was no routine vote. This was a turning point in galactic history. High Arbiter Zethmorian's avatar appeared in the center of the chamber, larger and more imposing than usual. Counselors, his voice resonated through every translator, we face an unprecedented situation. Humanity has applied for membership while simultaneously threatening our destruction. They have violated every protocol, every tradition, every assumption about how civilized species interact. Velrith noticed Kira Vance's hologram appearing in the observer's gallery, watching silently. And yet, Zethmorian continued, I find myself recommending we accept their application. Not because of their threats, though those are real and credible. But because their challenge to our system has forced me to examine that system honestly for the first time in centuries. And I find it wanting. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. The council was founded to prevent war, to facilitate cooperation, to create a framework for peaceful coexistence among diverse species. We have succeeded in those goals. But in doing so, we have also created a barrier that excludes species who might contribute greatly to galactic civilization simply because they don't match our cultural expectations. Humanity is violent, yes. Crude, certainly. They lack the philosophical sophistication we've cultivated over millions of years. But they also possess innovation, determination, and a willingness to challenge the status quo that we've lost. If we reject them, we don't just lose their potential contributions. We prove that our council is a closed system, incapable of evolution, destined for eventual irrelevance. Zethmorian paused. The vote will proceed. But I want every delegate to ask themselves, are we voting on whether humanity deserves membership, or on whether the council deserves to survive in its current form? The voting began. Velrith cast his vote, accept. He watched the tally appear in his display, feeling history pivot around this moment. The Remnari bloc voted to accept, all 47 species acting in concert. The Thale collectives voted to accept. The Outer Rim species voted to accept. The core species, the Old Guard, began to split. Some voted to reject, clinging to tradition. But others, like Velrith, saw the writing on the walls. When the tally finished, the result was clear. 187 to accept, 60 to reject. Humanity was in. Kira Vance's hologram smiled. Thank you, counselors. You've made the right choice. We've made the only choice, Counselor Thex said bitterly. Perhaps, Kira acknowledged. But it's still the right one. The devices will be deactivated within the hour. And we look forward to working with you all to build a better, more inclusive council. Her hologram vanished. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Speaker VNN rose. I propose we immediately open applications for the 76 species currently on indefinite review. If humanity can force the door open, we should at least have the grace to invite in those who've been patiently knocking. The motion passed. As the chamber emptied, Velrith found himself standing beside Zethmorian's avatar. Did we just witness a hostile takeover? Velrith asked. Or a revolution? Yes, the Arbiter replied. And in 50 years, we'll know if it saved the council or destroyed it. Velrith looked at the star charts surrounding the chamber, showing all the inhabited systems in council space. Soon there would be more lights on that map. More species. More perspectives. More chaos. More possibility. I suppose we'll find out, he said. The galaxy had changed. The question was whether the council could change with it. The integration. 3 months after the vote, Kira Vance stood in what was technically her new office in the council's administrative sector. The space had been designed for a methane-breathing Gorith, and the atmospheric processor hummed constantly to maintain human-compatible air. The furniture was all wrong. The lighting gave her headaches. But it was hers. Ambassador Vance, her assistant, Marcus Chin, appeared in the doorway. The integration committee is ready for you. Kira straightened her jacket. She'd learned that small rituals helped maintain sanity in this alien environment, and headed for the conference chamber. The integration committee consisted of 20 species tasked with smoothly incorporating humanity into council operations. In practice, it was a bureaucratic nightmare designed to delay and obstruct. Kira had attended 47 meetings in the past 90 days, and accomplished approximately nothing. Today would be different. She entered the chamber to find the usual suspects. Velrith, who'd become something of an unlikely ally, Counselor Thex, still bitter about humanity's admission, and a rotating cast of bureaucrats who seemed to view obstruction as an art form. Ambassador, Velrith greeted her. We've prepared the next phase of cultural integration protocols. If you'll review Section 43, subsection 12. No, Kira said simply. The word hung in the air like a gunshot. I beg your pardon? Velritha's optical sensors focused intently. I said no. We're not doing this anymore. Kira activated her personal display, projecting data across the chamber. In 3 months, you've required humanity to complete 17,000 pages of documentation, attend 412 orientation sessions, and submit to 79 separate cultural assessments. Meanwhile, our voting rights remain under review, our trade proposals are pending evaluation, and our representatives are excluded from 14 subcommittees on the grounds that we lack institutional knowledge. Integration takes time, Thex began. Integration is a two-way street, Kira interrupted. And right now it's all demands and no delivery. So here's what's going to happen. Effective immediately, humanity is exercising its full council rights. We'll be introducing legislation, participating in all committees and expecting equal treatment. You can either accept that or we can have another conversation about deadlines. You're threatening us again? Thex's mouth twisted in disgust. I'm reminding you of reality, Kira corrected. We didn't join the council to be second-class members. We joined to participate fully. So let's participate. Before anyone could respond, Kira activated another projection. I've drafted 3 pieces of legislation I'll be introducing in tomorrow's general session. First, reducing integration timelines from an average of 47 years to 3 years maximum. Second, creating an appeals process for species whose applications have been indefinitely delayed. Third, establishing transparency requirements for all council decisions, including voting records and committee deliberations. Impossible. Thex protested. These proposals would fundamentally alter council operations. Good, Kira said flatly. They should. You've been operating in the dark for too long, making decisions without accountability. That ends now. Velrith studied the proposals carefully. These are actually quite reasonable. Aggressive, but reasonable. We're human, Kira said with a slight smile. Reasonable aggression is our specialty. The next day's general session was the most contentious in council history. Kira's proposals triggered fierce debate, with the old guard species resisting every change while the newer and outer rim species rallied in support. But something unexpected happened. Commander Jade Sorensen, who'd been quietly building relationships with the military delegates, introduced supporting evidence showing that streamlined integration processes would enhance council security by bringing more species formally into the defensive network. Analyst Mira Ken, working the diplomatic channels, demonstrated how transparency requirements would actually reduce corruption and increase efficiency. And Captain Darius Cole, humanities representative on the Economic Council, showed how appeals processes would unlock trade potential with hundreds of developing species. Humanity wasn't fighting alone. They were building coalitions, leveraging their natural talent for adaptation and alliance building. The transparency proposal passed narrowly. The appeals process gained enough support to move to a second reading. The integration timeline reduction failed, but generated serious discussion about reform. After the session, Velrith approached Kira in the corridor. You planned this, he said. The entire confrontation in the integration committee. You knew your proposals would be contested, so you staged a smaller battle first to make the larger fight seem more reasonable by comparison. Kira smiled. We call it door-in-the-face technique. Ask for something extreme, get rejected, then your real request seems modest. Humans have been negotiating with each other for millennia. We've developed some effective strategies. Devious, Velrith observed. Effective, Kira corrected. And Velrith? This is just the beginning. We have 73 more proposals in development. Some will pass, some will fail. But each one will move the council toward reform. You're reshaping galactic government piece by piece. We're participating, Kira said. Isn't that what membership means? Over the following weeks, humanity's approach became clear. They weren't trying to dominate the council, they were trying to transform it from within. Every proposal, every committee assignment, every diplomatic interaction was designed to make the council more open, more accountable, more responsive to the needs of all species. It was exhausting work. Kira spent 18 hours a day in meetings, negotiations and planning sessions. But slowly, incrementally, the council began to change. The Remnari finally gained full membership after 800 years of waiting. The Thale Collective secured trade agreements that had been blocked for decades. Transparency requirements revealed corruption in the procurement system, leading to reforms that saved billions of credits. Not everyone was happy. Councillor Thex led a bloc of conservative species in fierce resistance, arguing that humanity was destroying traditions that had maintained galactic peace for millions of years. But even Thex couldn't argue with results. Council efficiency improved. More species engaged with the system. And surprisingly, conflicts actually decreased as grievances found productive outlets instead of festering in darkness. 6 months after humanity's admission, High Arbiter Zeth Morian requested a private meeting with Kira. She found him in his meditation chamber, his crystalline form pulsing with what she'd learned to recognize as contemplation. Ambassador Vance, he greeted her. I wanted to share something with you. Last week, I received a message from the Kelvorian hierarchy. They're a species we rejected for membership 2,000 years ago. They've been isolated since then, developing independently. And? Kira prompted. They've reapplied for membership, citing humanity's admission as proof that the council has changed. They're the first of what I expect will be many such applications. Kira nodded slowly. Is that a problem? I don't know yet, Zethmorian admitted. But it's certainly a change. The council has been relatively static for the past million years. Now, thanks to humanity, we're entering a period of rapid transformation. That brings opportunities but also risks. Change is always risky, Kira acknowledged. But stagnation is fatal. Eventually. A very human perspective. Perhaps that's what you needed, Kira suggested. A species too young to know that change is supposed to be slow. Too stubborn to accept no for an answer. Too aggressive to wait patiently while bureaucracy grinds away. Zethmorian's avatar pulsed with what might have been amusement. You realize you're describing yourselves as galactic irritants? We prefer catalysts, Kira replied with a grin. But yes, fundamentally that's our role. We're the species that asks, why not, when everyone else says, that's how it's always been. The galaxy may never be the same. Good, Kira said firmly. It was time for an upgrade. As she left the meditation chamber, Kira allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. Humanity had forced its way into the Galactic Council. Now they were remaking it from within, one proposal, one alliance, one incremental victory at a time. They were never invited. But they were making damn sure they earned their place anyway. The opposition. The backlash was inevitable. Kira had known it would come. She just hadn't expected it to be quite so coordinated. 8 months after humanity's admission, Councillor Thex finally made his move. He'd spent the intervening time building a coalition of conservative species who viewed humanity's reforms as an existential threat to council stability. Now he was ready to push back. The session began innocuously enough. Routine trade discussions, minor territorial disputes, the standard bureaucratic agenda. Then Thex requested the floor for an emergency motion. Esteemed councillors, his translated voice carried an edge of triumph, I move for an immediate vote on Resolution 7743, the evaluation of human membership status. Kira felt ice in her stomach. She pulled up the resolution on her display and scanned it quickly. It was worse than she'd feared. The resolution called for a comprehensive review of humanity's membership, citing procedural irregularities in the admission process and destabilizing influence on council operations. If it passed, humanity's voting rights would be suspended pending a full investigation that could take years. This is absurd, Kira objected, rising to her feet. Our admission was voted on legally and accepted by the required majority. Under duress, Thex countered. With weapons pointed at the heart of galactic civilization. Many species voted to accept humanity not because they wanted to, but because they feared the alternative. That's not legitimate membership. That's hostage-taking. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Kira could see some delegates nodding. Thex had chosen his timing well. The initial fear of humanity's weapons had faded, replaced by frustration with the rapid changes humanity was forcing through the system. Ambassador Vance forced her way into this council, Thex continued, his voice rising with passion. She violated our protocols, ignored our procedures, and threatened destruction if we didn't comply. And we, in a moment of weakness and fear, capitulated. But fear is a poor foundation for governance. It's time we corrected that mistake. If I may respond, Kira said coldly. High Arbiter Zethmorian gestured permission. Councillor Thex conveniently forgets that humanity applied for membership 17 times through proper channels and was ignored every time. He forgets that we met every qualification in your charter but were rejected because we didn't fit your cultural preferences. He forgets that your integration protocols are deliberately designed to exclude species that think differently from the established majority. We were patient, she continued, her voice carrying across the chamber. We waited. We followed your rules. And we were systematically dismissed. So yes, we took dramatic action. We forced you to acknowledge us. But everything we've done since then has been legitimate, legal, and productive. To be continued.